Hi, good evening. Welcome to Stampin' Gloria Sip and Stamp. I am excited because the Beautiful World stamp set is one of my absolute favorites. Why? Because I love to travel. So tonight I'm going to show you how to make a spinner card with it and a little mini photo album. The card we're making tonight is a spinner card. There are a lot of different kinds of spinner cards. This one maybe you've not seen, so I'll give you all the measurements and dimensions. And I want to show you how to make this little photo album. I loved it because for me, the whole way I ever got started with scrapbooking was a mini album. It's quick, easy, and for me, instant gratification, yeah, isn't that the truth for all of us? Instant gratification. So the sooner I could get a scrapbook done, the happier I was. Now I've become an avid scrapbooker, which means I have multiple albums of 12 by 12 pages. But I'm going to show you how to put this together. Not necessarily exactly like this, but I'll show you the dimensions and the instructions for putting this little goodie together. All right, let's get started with our card. So we start with Misty Moonlight. Misty Moonlight is going to be our base card. It is 4 1/4 by 11 inches. And it is a vertical card that we're actually making horizontally. I say vertical because when you have the complete sheet of cardstock, you're 8 1/2 by 11, you're cutting it vertically. And then we're gonna turn it tonight. We're going to score it at 5 1/2 inches, and we're going to make our card in a horizontal fashion. We also need a sheet of cinnamon cider. This is one of our new in colors this year. It's a really pretty color. We're going to do some embossing on it to give it that old world texture. And then we're going to use some seaside spray, some scraps, and we're going to do our little feather and ink blot and sentiment for the front cover with that. We'll also be using a little bit of the copper foil. You can use brass or copper, but we're going to be using the copper one this evening, and we'll cut some little pieces that complement our card. So let's get started. I can start by embossing this cinnamon cider cardstock. So I'm going to put my little big shot, or my big shot in front of you, and I'm going to use the old world paper embossing folder. So let's get that out. I love this. It really gives a very nice texture to the card. It's almost like crumpling up your paper. So we're going to put that through our big shot. So this is the old world paper embossing folder, and that's exactly what we want it to look like on our card tonight. We want it to look like old world map paper. So to give it a little bit more pizzazz, we're gonna fold up the corners, and I can use my bone folder to do that. Just give it a little curl, that's all we're doing, as if it had been rolled up in a scroll. So we're going to do that and get that ready for the base of our card. We're also going to need a couple of the real shiny embellishments. So this, as I said, we're going to be using copper foil today. So I'm going to get my big shot back out, and I'm going to get my die cuts. So I'll be using world map dies, and tonight for the front of the card I need this piece, which is a really nice border trim. It's just got a very linear structure to it. Just gives the card a little pizzazz. So we're going to use that plate as well as this little scroll die. So that's going to be just for our brass cardstock. This die is about 6 inches. I may have to trim it. In fact, I do recall that I had to trim it. And then I'm going to put the little scroll there. So let's put our top layer plate, our acrylic plate, and run it through my Big Shot. If this were a card front, I could just use that as a simple embellishment by die cutting these little slots out. But today I'm going to use it actually as a strip. Is pull out my cutting board and trim it. Cutting blade. There we go. Now we have a single strip. So we're just flicking these off. I also have my little tools. My pick tool with the brush. I can use that. I use it from the back side so I don't scratch my foil. Let's grab some of those little strips off. There we go. Okay, now we're ready. So that piece is obviously a little bit longer than I need it, so I'm going to trim it. Yeah, that should be point to point. Let's see. Is it going to work? Yep. Okay, so let's go back to our Misty Moonlight. And we're going to place this foil at the bottom. I'm going to use a little bit of adhesive here. I'll use some liquid adhesive. There's a real nice margin above and below my little cuts. So I'll put a strip there and a strip there. Oh goodness, oh, messy. The good news is we have a nice layer of old world paper that we're gonna cover that with. So for me, I can either choose to lay it flat because it's already has the dimension from the embossing, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue behind it, angle it a little bit there, and lay it down. So I have my, so even if I put this in an envelope, the fact that I've already curled the edges, they kind of spring back up once the receiver takes it out of the envelope. So that's going to be a really nice treat. I'm going to use some little scraps of Seaside Spray, and I'll be using Cinnamon Cider ink pad to stamp my sentiment. I love this. You make the world a better place. I have really been hung up on creating very positive cards, and I love that Stampin' Up! Has so many beautiful sentiments. But I also need the little feather pen, so I'm going to ink that up. Let's see if that's showing. Yeah. And I need a little ink spot, ink blotter, and I'm going to put that there. And each of these will be cut out first with a punch and then with the die cut. So I'm going to use my Everyday Label punch. Flip that upside down so I can see my sentiment and line that up. Pop the words out, so that's ready. Then I'm going to run the rest of this. Sorry guys, today it's a Big Shot night. I'm going to run this through the Big Shot. One more time, placing these pieces, and let me get my scissors and trim off some scrap here. Trimming those pieces, and again I'm going to pull out my dies, and I need my feather outline and my ink bottle outline. I love these dies, and if in a little bit when we do our next project you'll see the globe, and actually you're going to see part of the globe done, the inked globe done from this set, and then you're also going to see the outline of the globe in the next project. And I'm using some washi tape at the moment. I just want to be sure that those little magnetic pieces don't slide away. My magnetic plate, you know, it's kind of worn and it has its polarization going on, so sometimes it has a mind of its own and it makes those little die cuts move around. So we have these three stamped pieces. Let's get back to our card base, and we're going to place the sentiment with some Stampin' dimensionals. We're going to get our little scrolly piece in a moment. Meanwhile, let's put the ink well, and we'll put a little dimensional behind it. I have some mini dimensionals also, so I'm going to use that with this since it's so tiny. I love these dimensionals. They have a really strong adhesive base, and I can count on them staying in place. Because this is somewhat of a narrow piece, I'm going to also be using mini dimensionals on the back of the feather pen. Again, my pick tool is so diverse. I actually have two of them. One of them has an embossing tip and a brush to help me with my die cuts. And the other one has the putty tip as well as the pointy tip, which I can reverse, the spatula tip, and that helps lift pieces. And there's my sentiment. And somewhere over here we go, I have found my little scroll, and I'm going to make sure this little piece is out of there. There we go. Put a little dab of glue. I just want to hold it in place. There we go. And just kind of put it right there. There we go. So that's the outside of our card. All right, now the inside is the fun part. It's the really tricky part. So what I'm going to be using is a piece of cardstock, or excuse me, this is Designer Series paper. This piece is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 by 5 inches. So I'm going to be using that. The magic, however, comes from this piece of cinnamon cider. And this piece is actually cut at 3 1/4 in width, and the length of it is 9 1/2 inches. So this is the magic piece, because this is the one that I have to score and get ready for making my spinner card. So let me show you where we're going to score that. So the first score line is, wrong tool here. The first score line is 1 inch. The next one is 2 3/4, and the third one is right at 4 1/2. So what we're going to do with this piece of cardstock is fold it in a mountain valley style. What do I mean by that? Mountain, valley, valley. So when I say valley, that means inward. When I say mountain, I mean outward. And this is the piece that's actually going to hold our globe and our spinning globe. Okay, so we're going to be tucking it in like that. But before we do, how do we get that globe to spin? Well, what we need to do is cut out a circle. Size 1, I separate them out so that they have room. This is size 2, and this one is size 3. So this is the third largest in the layering circles. And what I'm going to do is put this on my Big Shot, and I'm going to cut my circle. I have to fold my card back so that nothing but the piece that is involved. See, I folded it so it's the mountain piece, okay? Remember what I said, valley, mountain, valley. So the mountain piece is what's going to be extended. I need to leave about 3/4 of an inch there, and I'm going to cut with my circle die. And this is a good place to use a little bit of washi tape, just because I don't really want to mess this up. It gives a perfect amount of space for that globe to spin. So let's make sure we've got that in place. There we go. And go. Okay, like I said, about 3/4 of an inch from the fold. I'm only cutting half of my circle so that I give my globe room to spin. You'll see in a moment what this is going to look like. So let's cut this piece. Washi tape will stick, but it won't ruin your cardstock, so it's always a... There we go. So there is the opening that my globe will be spinning through. Now I need to prepare the inside of my card, and I need the globe stamped. Again, we're going to go back to Seaside Spray, Cinnamon Cider. And we're going to cut 2 hemispheres, actually. So my first one is here. And that looks like, yep, Asia and Australia. Over here we have North America and South America. Yep, there we go. So now we have both hemispheres. And we're going to, once again, need to die cut. Now this die for the globe is out of the Beautiful World Map dies. And what I'm going to do at this point is match them up. I need to make sure that the northern tip matches up with the northern tip so that I can put them back to back. Now before I adhere them, I want to use this really pretty Seaside Spray twine. This has some silver in it and white. So this twine is very appealing, very attractive. We're going to place that right in the center. And again, I want, before I adhere it, I want to line up the northern poles and the southern tip. And I want to line up my twine. I notice that I'm purposely extending the twine. I'd rather be more cautious and generous with that twine. So I'm going to put some adhesive here. I like using liquid adhesive. It gives me more time to adjust. Okay, again, northern, southern. Let's make sure before we finalize that. Aligning the strip with the, let's see, is that latitude or longitude? Longitude, right? Latitude, longitude. Anyway, I'm lining it up vertically. Southern and northern tip. Okay, now I'm going to be trimming this piece. And now I have my spinning globe ready. And as you can see, it's going to fit well within that little hole, right? I will be placing the globe, and I will align my twine at the crease. I will be putting adhesive right here on each side of that crease. That's what's going to hold my twine in place. There we go. Thank you for your patience with me. There we go. Now, it's the side that's going to go to the right side of my card. And I'm going to line up my creases. So right here you'll see on the Cinnamon Cider the crease, and right here you'll see the Misty Moonlight crease. So I'm going to be lining that up. And once I've lined that up and just kind of fold it over, I'm going to add some adhesive here. Keep it in line with the crease. There we go. Line that up. Okay. And on this side, now that I have it lined up, my card folds. I can add some adhesive here, close that up. Remember that designer series paper I showed you early on? We're going to take that piece, make sure that it's right side up, Baltic Sea, and this piece is also 3 1/4 inches wide, and it is 5 inches long. So I'm just going to lay that on top of the Cinnamon Cider and Misty Moonlight and just cover that up. So that becomes part of the inside of my card. And the only thing I'm missing from the inside now is my sentiment. Pull that taut. So we're going to take the sentiment, "You make the world a better place." And so on the inside, it's "Thank you for being a part of mine." I'm going to use the Cinnamon Cider tone on tone. Now, let's trim this and let's see how it plays out. Trim those little ends off. What you're going to do is just twirl your little globe around and tuck it like that into your envelope. When the receiver gets the card and they open it up, ta-da, your world spins, or their world spins. So you make the world a better place, and thank you for being a part of mine. And I truly mean that. Thank you for being a part of my world. The second project I wanted to show you is a little time consuming. In this sample, this is one of those cards I was just mentioning from Memories and Mores. So in this card this is an album I made for my husband for Father's Day. It was just a reminiscent reminder of our trip to Singapore last April. I think the world of you. And I want you to notice that I've also used some of our embellishments that go with this suite. They're called the antique corner and slide elements. So they're very clever and cute. I'm not using them this evening because I'm not going to put any pictures in our photo album, but I have used them in this one to corner or edge the photo. So this is one of the Memories and More. This is another one. It's made for journaling. I kept it blank so I could show it without being too personal. I've used some pieces of designer series paper to back up my photos. This is one of the many stickers. There's actually 4 sheets of stickers that come with Memories and More. Again, another journaling sheet. This one is 4x6 that I trimmed a little bit to fit within my page. And there's another one of the stickers in there. This is one of the 3x4s layered on top of a 4x6 of the Memories and More. And then I split one and put it behind this photo. And then I ended with 2 stickers, which if you recall from our card that we just made, very much like the actual die cut that comes with this suite. So these are actually stickers, and this is another one of the Memories and More cards. So tonight what I decided was to show you in a different color the same album. So what I start off with are 3 sheets of 4 by 12. Now 4 by 12, again, we do sell our our cardstock in a 12 by 12 size. So this is standard scrapbooking size, and I've cut it into 3 pieces. These are 4 by 12, and then I scored it in half, so I scored it at the 6-inch mark. So I've got 3 of these, and like I said, this is just a little treat. This is just a little mini album. A couple of years ago, I made a little mini album for both of 2 of my sons, and gave it to them for Father's Day. So this is just a real quick, kind of an extended idea from a greeting card to something in between a scrapbooking page and a greeting card that you can put together rather quickly. Now, in addition to these pieces, I cut some cinnamon cider for edging. And that I will need 2 pieces that are 4 by 2 inches, so it's 2 inches wide, 4 inches long, and 1 piece that's 4 inches long and 2 1/8. Okay, because what I'm going to do right now is get my scoring board back out, and I'm going to score these so that they end up being the borders of my photo album. So let's do the 2 pieces that are 4 by 2. And again, let's make a little bit more room on my workspace here. Get my scoring board here for you. And the 4 by 2s, we're going to actually score at 1 inch. Just score it in half. Let's get the, so at 1 inch. And then the one that's 2 1/8, we're actually going to score it at, I think it's at 1 inch. Let me make sure I get my measurements. I don't want to tell you incorrectly. At 1 inch and 1 1/8, yeah. Because we're going to use that as our outer piece. So it's 1 inch and 1 1/8. That's just going to hug the outside of our album. So as you saw, basically all it is taking those 3 sheets, folding them in half, and we're going to use these to couple them. I'm going to place this between these 2 pieces. So I'm going to butt these 2 4 by 6 pieces together. They open up like a book, and I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to adhere it this direction. Some adhesive here and some adhesive here. Place this, butt it up against this Misty Moonlight. Again, this is cinnamon cider, 4 by 2 against a 4 by 6 Misty Moonlight. Butt the 2 Misty Moonlights together. Take that cinnamon cider, open it up, make that flush. Let's check it on the other side. There we go. There we go. Now, this is how I repeat it. I'm going to do the same thing on the back side. And I'm going to take that 3rd piece of Misty Moonlight in the same manner. There we go. So this piece that was 4 inches by 2 1/8 that has the 2 score lines is what's going to hug the book shut. But before I place this, I do want to put ribbon because I like tying my little photo album shut. So I'm going to measure out some ribbon long enough to be able to tie it in place. And I'm also going to be putting a piece of Memories and More card on top. So I just want to put a little bit of adhesive to keep this in place, but I'll be putting more adhesive to when I put the Memories and More card on it. So let's just put some adhesive on the ribbon to hold it in place, just so I can put that binding on the back spine. Put a little bit of adhesive here. I've switched to a Formica tabletop so that if I do get adhesive there, I can wipe it off after my project. Okay, so now I'm going to use this piece of cinnamon cider. Remember, that was 4 inches by 2 1/8, scored at 1 inch and 1 1/8. And I'm going to put some adhesive on both sides so that it'll hug my little booklet. There we go. All right, if you recall, I mentioned those Memories and More cards. I'm going to show you some selections that I'm going to use inside the card. First, I do want to show you that I have cut a piece of designer series paper into 3 7/8 of an inch by 5 7/8 of an inch. I trimmed 1/8 of an inch off both pieces because I want to lay it on there well without it affecting the opening and closing of the book. And I decided that this piece, it's really pretty. Misty Moonlight has some brass foil to it, and I want to use that corner spot as the anchor to my photo album. So I'm going to put some adhesive on this to layer it on top of my photo album. And I'm going to do the back side. Okay, so let's make sure I have the back piece. Also has that little corner tip. So when I turn this, I want to make sure the corner pieces are both at the same bottom spot of the booklet. They exude radiance. They spread out the rays of sunshine from the bottom corner. I'm going to put this. And so I've hidden my ribbon and given the ribbon some more durability as well by putting it underneath those pieces of cardstock. So now what I want to do is decorate the front side. Now I took the liberty of cutting these dies out. Again, these are from the Old World dies. I just love that brilliance that foil gives us. So I have some real big spots here that'll hold my piece in place. Just gonna put that on that corner and this one in this corner. And I had the notion of stamping Life's a Beautiful Journey, and I want to put it on a piece of Misty Moonlight because I just want it to blend in with the front, but I'm going to emboss it with some gold embossing. It's the closest to the foil that I'm using. So before I emboss, I'm going to use my embossing buddy to kind of take that humidity off so that my stamp sticks in place. Using Versamark ink with my stamp, Life's a Beautiful Journey. There we go. I heat embossed this, and now I'm ready to place that, but I am going to trim it. I originally cut this at 3 inches, and it's 1 1/4 inches wide. I'm going to trim it because I'm going to put a little bit of foil behind it, I think. Let's see, that does look pretty. I had originally thought of putting a piece of foil behind it like that. And actually, I think I still want to do that. Yeah, I'm going to place that right there. Let's go ahead and do that. It's a little different from what I had envisioned. You have to, what my point of making my album a little differently is to show you that you have to personalize the album for your journey. And I'm going to use some dimensionals to pop that up. Life's a beautiful journey. Oh, look at that. That actually turned out nicer than I had envisioned. Remember, this is just kind of a fresh recollection of the original album that I created. Now, I'm not going to take the time to decorate the inner pages, but what I am going to take the time is to show you some of the memory and more cards that are possible. As you can see, as I mentioned, there are 50 of cards altogether. So some of them are 3x4. They are double-sided. So you can see that I can go with a black and gray tone, or I can go with a golden tone. That's why I chose the Misty Moonlight. It's one of those base type of colors. Here's those are just duplicates. A Day to Remember, some journaling cards. And the back side, these are really nice. I use cards like this to kind of enhance the background of a photo. So you want some of those type of cards as well as your journaling cards. Here's some more journaling cards. As you can see, the tones vary. You could even make this photo album out of this beautiful green. It's this one is the Just Jade. No, I'm sorry, this one's Mossy Meadow. That would make a really pretty album as well. Dream Big, some more titles. You can always cut. There's some more journaling. This is the one I actually used for my original album. So all I did was use my corner punch, my trio punch, to round off the corners. Reach for the Stars, that's really a pretty complement to the Misty Moonlight. Dream, Discover, Explore, I had originally thought about using that. If I had trimmed this piece right here, I could have placed that in the center and made that my title page. Because I do have the complete suite, I have the stamps, I decided to emboss with the gold embossing powder. But as you can see, that really goes nicely with the foil that's already on my designer specialty paper, as well as the foil that I cut from the dies. So there's a lot of opportunity here to make this little album. I put in the back side, I do have the designer specialty paper. In my previous album, I did put some parting sayings. I could do that as well with this one. It's definitely up to you. And the beauty is, when it's all said and done, you just tie a little bow and gift it to your loved one, or keep it for your own keepsake and memories of a fabulous trip that I hope you've taken. This is my version of a mini photo album. It's very simple, no fancy pockets or anything. This is intended to be a quick fix, a quick photo album to give in much the same way you would give a greeting card. So I hope you like that. And our spinner card was a lot of fun putting together. You just twirl that around and package it in an envelope, and then your receiver has a little bit of fun with it when they open their card up. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I've really enjoyed my time with you, and I certainly appreciate your patience.